Hey, how you doing today? This is Lo-Fi Animator, aka Hammer, and today I'm going to show you how to create dynamic thunder and particle dust with the dynamic paint modifier. Now stay tuned. So the first thing we want to do is we want to delete the cube, and then we want to add in the plane. So go to add mesh, and then we go to plane. Now, the second thing we have to do is we have to go to the edit, and within the edit, we go to preferences. And then in preferences, we go to search. And then the search, we want to type in, search for the IV add-on. So we type in IV. And then we should see the IV Gen add-on. Make sure it's checked. And then when it's checked, we go to scroll over to the right. And then under create, we should see the IV Gen add-on. So what you want to do is you want to expand the IV Gen add-on. And then let's type in the parameters. So remember this. Please remember this. So we want to go down to the settings, size settings. So when you go to IV generator, make sure you go to size settings, and then you put in the parameters. So over here we put in 1. For the IV size, we want to put in 0.1. For the IV flow length, we want to put in 0.3. And then I'm bad with the terminologies. For this one, we're going to put in 0.1. And then make sure that you uncheck the grow leaves. Uncheck this. And then once you uncheck that, make sure the plane is tapped, is checked. And you want to add in a new IV, not the default IV, but add in a new IV, the one at the top. We select that and we should have in our IV. Now we want to delete the plane. So make sure the plane is deleted. Let's expand this just a little bit. Let's scale this out just a little bit. There we go. Next thing we want to do with the IV, make sure the IV is checked, is we want to add an emission material to it. So we go to the material tab, and we add in new, surface, and we add in an emission. Then we're going to make the emission, let's say 15. Now we want to be able to see it, so simply go to the viewport shading so you can be able to see it. And then we're going to scroll over to the right to the render properties, and you want to select ambient occlusion and bloom. Now it's up to you what color it wants to be. I like to have that electric look. So I like this one. I'm going to switch it to like that bluish look. But it's up to you. You can keep it on a default color. But I like to switch the color to the blue so it can have that electric kind of look to it. There we go. Look a little bit like electricity. Now what we want to do is we're going to add. And now let's add an empty. And then from empty, we're going to click the plane axis. Scroll to the left, just a little. Scroll the plane axis to the left, just a little bit, like that. And next thing we want to do is we want to make it have that effect, that lightning looking effect when it moves and stuff like that on command. So what we do next is we go to the modifier tab, or the modifier properties. Then we go into add modifier. Whoa, I missed one step. We want to check the lightning, and then we want to convert this to mesh. To make sure this is converted to mesh. And then once it's converted to mesh, once the lightning is converted to mesh, right? Then we want to go to the properties. And then we want to add in the properties. And then here we want to go to the displacement properties. Whoa, it looks insane, doesn't it? Well, let's scale this down a little bit. So for strength, we want to type in the parameters for the strength to 0.1. Matter of fact, we want to make it 0.01. There we go. That makes more sense. So now it kind of you're starting to see looks a little bit more like lighting a little bit. So now from here, we want to select new. We want to add new texture. We're going to select new. And then we're going to select this tab, show texture, tab. And then from here, I'm not going to go too deep into the settings, but we're just going to select the type. And we're going to select type to distorted noise. And then from there, we select the modifier again. And then from the coordinates, we select the object on the coordinates. And then we want to select the empty. So let's go ahead and select the empty. And then for direction, it's up to you, depending on how you want the direction to look. But let's try RGB to XYZ with direction. So now you kind of have that electric looking wavy look. See it? Looks more like a wavy electricity. Now we want this to be automatic. Now, depending on your CPU, it varies. But I have a decent enough CPU. It's not the best CPU, but my CPU is decent. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on. Scroll back to the tab section. You want to make sure the empty is selected. Then we want to go to item. So when we go to the far right, we go to item. And then for rotation, we're going to make this. Now for the rotation, under the transform, under the item, you want to type in hashtag frame divided by, let's say, 30. Right? So hashtag frame divided by 30. Now we press enter. And then we press enter. You should see this little purple sign, which is like a driver. It's like an automatic driver. So when you press space or when you press the play button, let's press the play button right now. You see it has that move effect automatically. So you don't have to animate it or you don't have to use any keyframes for it. It automatically moves like lightning. Now what we want to do is we want to add in another plane. So now we have the lightning effect. Now what we want to do is we want to add in the plane. So we go to add mesh, plane. Let's scroll the plane out just a little bit so you can see it a little bit more. And then from the plane, go to object, edit. And then from edit, let's subdivide it just a little bit. It's up to you how many numbers. I like to make it very tight because, like I said, I have a decent CPU, so I can make it a little bit tight. But be wary, sometimes it may not work for everybody. So once we have these set up here, then we go back to object. And then from here, when I add in first, we go to the physics properties. Then we add in a dynamic paint. And then under the dynamic paint, we have a canvas. Make sure this is canvas. We go to add canvas. Then beneath the surface, under dynamic paint, we select weights. So under surface types, we select weights. And then don't forget about this step 2. We go to dissolve. Make sure you check the dissolve. And we're going to have it at 6. Now we'll go to output. And make sure that you go to output and then check this box right here. So make sure you check the vertex group box. Check the little plus mark. And bam. So make sure you do all these steps in sequence. I mean, it doesn't have to be in sequence, but it's important that you do it all in sequence. And then we want it to show the lightning. So now we have the dynamics paint set up. We want to show the lightning. So now we go to the particle section. We add a new particle system. And then we go to here. and then we go to advanced. And then the first thing I like to do, so I can make sure I can see everything correctly, is you go to render. Under the particle system, you go to render. You select render as. You go to object, and then within the object, you want to select the lightning. Bam. So now here we have the lightning. Now we want to make it a little bit bigger. So that, I mean, this is various. If you want a small, you can have it small, but I like to see a lot in it. I like to have a very big dramatic effect to it whenever I see the lightning. So for me, I'm going to have it to, let's say, 0.2. All right. So now you have it at 0.2. And then we're going to scale the random all the way up. And now you want it to have like a randomish look effect to it. Like you want it to look like real lightning. So we go up to the rotation. Make sure the advance is checked. And then we go to the rotation. Select the rotation. And like I said, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but just enough detail. So we're going to select the X. So it looks like it's showing up a little bit. So once we select the orientation, we select object X. So it looks like it's setting out a little bit. So we want the lightning spears to shoot out like that. And then we want it to randomize. We want it to make it look all tacky. You like that dramatic effect. So here we go to randomize, and then we randomize it up like that. There we go. And then for here, go under the face, and then we randomize it even more. Make it even more random. There we go. Make it so random as possible. So remember, under rotation, object X, randomize all the way up. Don't mess with the face. Randomize it again all the way down there, all the way up. So now we have a very, very insane dramatic effect. So next thing we want to do now, scroll to the bottom, scroll all the way down to vertex groups. And under density and length, you can select the density, and then we collect DP weight. And then same with the length, we collect DP weights. So make sure these both are checked. So next thing we want to do is we want to add in, let's say, a cube. Scale the cube just a little bit. It's too big, so we're going to scale it up, just scale it down just a little bit. We don't want to be too crazy, but there we go. So now this is a very easy step. This is the easiest step. We simply just go to the physics property, and then we add in a dynamic paint. And then dynamic paint type, we just go to brush, and we just go to add brush. There you go. So now we have that very dramatic looking effect. You see it? Looks like real lightning. And then when you press space on it, it looks even more insane. Looks awesome, doesn't it? It looks very good.